This video features working with tabular data in ArcMap, and oftentimes we'll have tabular data that will have some locational component to it, oftentimes X and a Y column for coordinates, and we want to map those that XY column to get a point. So I'm going to be working in Florida for this video, and I'm going to be using an open data platform and downloading crime data. Once the crime data is downloaded, then we'll bring it into ArcMap and actually do the mapping. So to get started, let's take a look at where the data came from. This is from Miami-Dade Open County platform, the Socrata platform. And what's interesting about this data set is that they have all the CAD, or the computer-aided 911 calls logged into this particular data set. It's very large, and it has all the crimes that have essentially been called into 911. And I've filtered on complaint dates, so I only want things that happened within 2014. And I've also filtered for a signal. The signal is the actual type of crime. So we can see, just looking at it here, I have a traffic stop, disturbance, larceny. So there's anywhere from a half a dozen to a dozen different crime categories here. And then we have a lot of information. We have a case number and an event number, which I'm sure we could utilize for further research. But what's really critical for the geography component of this is that we do have a latitude and longitude. So the lat long is going to refer to WGS84 in ArcGIS. The XY coordinate that's in this data set is referencing a local planar data system, and the location geocode, which is the last column in this data set, is the latitude and longitude combined and bracketed by parentheses here. So we're not going to use these last three. We're only going to use latitude and longitude to do our mapping in ArcGIS. That'll be fine. And we can see the precision level on these points is quite high. So it's mapping very specific points to like a intersection or even a rooftop of a house, as opposed to, say, the middle of a census tract or the middle of the county. So we have a lot of precision here. So we're going to download these data sets, and the way that we do that is just do a simple export, and that comes down as a CSV for Excel or CSV alone. So I've done all that work. I have it downloaded into a folder, and right now I'm in ArcMap, and I have brought in Florida as a US county layer from Tiger Geometries online, and I'm going to map using this as my base layer so I can see where my points are falling within Florida. I'm mapping within Miami-Dade County, so they should just cluster within the county itself. We'll have a few errant points that fall out from the county that essentially we need to address. We're going to either take them out of the data set, or we're going to do some further research and figure out where that point actually should be. So to get started here, let's go ahead and bring in our data. So if we go to Arc Catalog, I'm going to go to a folder here that I call Crime Data 15, and I've organized this in terms thematically. So I have a weapons violation, shooting, homicide, DOA, and assault. These are all weapons related calls. And I'm just going to go ahead and start bringing these into ArcMap. I'm just going to drop them in one after another. So these will go into my table of contents. So let's go to table of contents, and we can see we have all our tabular data here, and we have Florida. So to get started, the first thing we need to do is say display XY data. So we just do a right click on the table, display XY data, and what we're going to do is we're going to tell the file where its X and where its Y is located. So we're not going to be using the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. What we are going to use is, for X field we'll use longitude, and for a Y field we'll be using latitude. And importantly, we can see that we have a geographic coordinate system that's North America 1983. We don't want that, and the reason that we're seeing that right now is because we have this feature in our current mapping environment that's forcing that particular projection system. So there's two ways to go about doing this. Either map these events in a brand new MXD that has no coordinate system on it, or we're going to force this coordinate system to be WGS 1984. So if we go up to our coordinate system, so I've said edit down here, I'm going to edit this coordinate system for the larger data frame, for the coordinate system for the input coordinates. So I'm going to go to geographic coordinate systems, and I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to go to world systems, and I want to use WGS 84, and I say OK. So I've changed it there. I'm only going to need to change this if I have a feature that's already in my mapping environment that is not WGS 84. Okay, so I go ahead and say OK, and I'll accept that, and it's going to give me my points now within the county. Now what's important is I need to zoom to layer. So if I zoom to layer, we're going to see that there is an issue here, which is I have a point way over here sitting over probably 0, 0 lat. Let's see. Yeah, so it doesn't actually have this particular point. It's probably many points, maybe. Let's take a look. Is sitting here with, it doesn't actually have a lat long on it, so it's just putting it out there in the middle of nowhere as basically a null value. So we can see that looks like we have quite a few here. So if I wanted to, we can go through these and look at the address. So here it's saying on this particular one, it's at the airport. Doesn't have a lot of locational data. This one actually has an address, so I probably could change that one. 93rd Street, I probably could figure that out. And we can see our X coordinate and our Y coordinate are just nulls. So this is if I were to go into the attribute data, this is all these features that under the XY here, they're showing up as a null. Okay, let's sort descending and see if we can find it. So if I sort descending, it's all these guys that are showing up at 0, 0, or a null coordinate. So in this case, I'm not actually going to worry about those points because I have what I'm really interested in this case for this mapping exercise. It's just to see the pattern of the points. So what I could do here is I'm only interested in points within Miami-Dade. So what I could do is I could go to selection and do a select by location. I'm going to select features from my assault events. But the problem here is that I first have to make this a shapefile. So right now it's events, and events are not actually, they don't really have geometry. So before we go any farther, we need to export these now. So we're going to data export these out. And I'm going to make a new folder in crime data that I'm going to call crime shapes. And this one is going to be called assault. I'm just going to, assault, and say save. Okay. It's going to export those points out. Now I'm going to get rid of the events because that's no longer of use. So this is really what I want, is the assault shapefile. So here now we can go back into select by location. It's going to make sense now. So I select by location. Now I want assaults that are within the source layer within Florida, or if I wanted to at the county level, I could collect this county level. So let's do the county level first. So I'm going to go select by attributes, and I'm going to select Florida. I'm going to select the county name equals get unique values. That's not the one I want. Let's see if I can find a name that's going to make sense here. Go into Florida, open attribute tables. So under the name or name LSAD, that's where I'm going to find it. So I go back to select by location or select by attributes. So I'm going to go into Florida. I'm going to find name equals, get the unique values. In this case, I want it to be Miami-Dade. There it is. Double click, say apply, OK. Great, so I'm selected there. Now I'm going to select within that selection. So I go to select by location. I'm going to select my assault features that are within Florida, and I'm currently going to use the selected feature there. And I'm going to intersect it with the source layer. And I'll say apply, OK. So that's got my points. Now I'm going to export these points out, and these are going to be my features that I'm going to use for further analysis. So I'm going to call this assault underscore MD county. So I know that those are just within the county, and I'm just going to forget about the ones that are currently mapped at null value at the 0.0 origination location for lat long. And I'll go ahead and say save, OK. And I'll say yes, add those to the map. So there's my points. They're all mapped correctly. They're, importantly, if I go to properties, they will be in WGS 84. So if I want to send these to a local planar system, I can do that. To refresh, let's run one more time. We'll do it on DOAs. So we display the XY data. Our X field is going to be longitude. Our Y field is going to be latitude. Remember, we got to change this. So we're going to go to edit and make sure that we are in a world system, and we want WGS 84. Say OK. OK. And that's going to map those points. Now we're going to select these DOA points, but that's quite a few. We're going to select those by location also. Select by location. Remember, we want to get rid of, actually before we do that, let's zoom to layer on DOAs and see, yeah, we can see that we have some that are at 002. They're over in the lower right hand corner here. So we need to do the same thing. So we're going to go back and select features that are just within our county. So we'll go select by location. In this case, I'm still in events, so I need to be in the shapefile. So I just go ahead, events, export it, data export. So here, I'm now going to call this in my folder, in my crime shapes folder, call this DOA. I'll just call that DOA select 1. That's for the first selection. And I say OK. Get rid of my events. Now this guy is what I want. So I go up to select by location, select DOA events that are within Florida using the selected feature, which is Miami-Dade County. And I say OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and export him as, let me put him out here. I put it out here. So I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to call this DOA MD for Miami-Dade County and say save and OK. Okay, so now I'm on my way here to getting through my tabular data. So I have 3 more sets to go. I have homicide, shooting, and weapons violations. But we can already see real closely, looking at this data set, that we do have a pattern, an overlapping pattern. So we have a few events on the edges here, but for the most part we have a lot of events that are clustered up right in this area, and then also southward, and there's another cluster of events towards the top. So I wouldn't really know what's going on until I actually get in some roads features and maybe some parcels and maybe some buildings to kind of understand the local geography relative to these points. So hopefully this is helpful in mapping out tabular data to XY points format, and importantly taking care of null values that end up at the coordinate pair 0, 0, which is going to be what we often call the null, the null island or the null place, which is out in the middle of the ocean at 0, 0. So we oftentimes want to either get rid of those out of a large data set or go correct those particular events. And we want to have a data set that's tight to whatever our study area is. And we can just simply do that by using a polygon feature, oftentimes an administrative boundary like a county or a census tract or zip codes, to select within a particular feature our final data set before we actually go into GIS analysis.